Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Chris Makes Stuff, and in this episode we are going to try to make these two old bikes run. Little backstory on these are both 1977. This one's a Honda 125, that's a Yamaha 175, and they've been sitting for the last 39 years. So to decide which one to work on, we're just gonna go eeny, meeny, this one. Mainly it's just a 4-stroke and I think it's gonna be easier to get going. So let's push this one aside and take a look at this one. So a little backstory on these is they've been in the family since 1977, bought new and barely ridden. They were last registered in '86, so I'm assuming what I'm looking at is all original. Let's bring you in here and take a look at it. So overall, the bikes are actually in really good shape. All the plastics are still there, and the color on here is still really good. I bet that'll clean up really well. The seat doesn't have a single tear in it. All the lights and everything are still all on it. It's dirty, but I bet a lot of this chrome will just clean up. Last registered '86. Here you can see it has 3,190 miles. And judging by the condition on it, I'd say that's all original. The grips are not even worn. The only real damage I've seen is the lever on the handlebars here is broke off, but not a big deal. No parts are missing. Let's take a look in the gas tank and see what that looks like. Well, I was honestly expecting a lot worse. So when I first saw these bikes, I was just sent a couple of pictures, and knowing that they hadn't run since '86, I guess. My initial thought was to cut them up and turn them into, like a cafe-style racer, but these things are too clean, too complete, and like just too original to actually cut up. I think it would be a shame to do that. So I think we're just gonna clean them up and get them running. So I guess this is gonna be one of those "Is it gonna run" episodes, and yeah, let's dive into it. I think the first thing I want to do is take off the seat and get this tank off so we can get that cleaned out and then take a look at what else we have here. I mean, look at the condition of that seat. That is immaculate. There is not a single cut in there. That's cool. Let's pull these plastics off. Yeah, well, that one was repaired at one point. A little bit of Bondo in there. I think I would have done the same thing. Alright, let's get the other side off. And other than just a little bit of Bondo in here, that's the only damage I'm really seeing. That's pretty cool. Both logos are still on there. It's got a little bit of scraping, but that makes sense. So this is where the battery would go. It seems all cool. Here's the, still has the original tool set in here. If I can squeeze these pins and get it out. Wow, how cool is that? The original tool set. Screwdriver handle. That is awesome. So I'm not entirely sure how this fuel tank comes off because there's no bolts holding it in. But I think this just gets pushed back and that lifts up apparently. So then this is probably just gonna slide back. You do have to disconnect that fuel line. There we go. Alright, let's see what 1986 gas looks like after sitting for 39 years. I bet it's just fine. Well, there is a lot of junk coming out of here. Alright, so we flushed it out several times in the most environmentally responsible sort of manner. And then we're just going to try this Evapor-Rust. I've seen it in a bunch of other YouTube videos of the bearded mechanic. He does a really good thing on this, but basically you just dump it in. Alright, we'll let that sit for a bit and then rotate it around to get the other sides of the tank and stuff. Well, I'm sure you're just as curious as I am as to whether 39-year-old gas is still flammable. So let's see if this stuff will light up. Well, I guess that answers the question. Yes, 39-year-old gas is still flammable. Alright. So to see what actually came out of that gas, all of that. Hopefully the tank is still good. Alright, while the gas tank is soaking, I want to get the air box off and the carburetor off just to see if there are any mice made their homes in there or really what we're working with here. So, that's the wrong size. Just being very careful on trying not to tear these rubber boots. I don't know how replaceable they are or expensive they are. So just taking their time working it off. Okay. And this appears just a spring. Alright, let's get this guy off. Alright, so after some wiggling, I got this off, and yeah, the air filter is kind of non-existent, and there was definitely a mouse house in there. So let's get all this cleaned out and see where we're at. Alright, now let's get this carburetor off. I can tell it's never been off because, well, these aren't all like knurled up and stuff, so that's a good sign. Alright, so I did end up having to apply a little bit of heat to get this slide to come up, and as soon as it heated, it just lifted, so it was just stuck. Not terribly bad, a little bit of rust and stuff there, which makes me think that the fuel bowl is going to be just as crunchy, so let's see. Well, that's cool. This doesn't even use screws, so let's pop that off. Alright, well, we're going to put this in the sonic cleaner. So normally I wouldn't spend the time to clean up something until I knew that it ran, but I'm just very hopeful or confident. Let's go more hopeful that it will. So we're just going to jump in here because I want to see how well these will actually clean up. So I'm just using Quad Zero steel wool and some Brasso to see how well this chrome will actually clean up. I think this Brasso's old, but should give us an idea here. Well, it's definitely not perfect, but it is good. And for these wheels, let's see how well this is going to clean up. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more. It's getting here, but it's not terrible. Yeah, that'll be awesome. Alright, so all the carb parts are out of the sonic cleaner, and they cleaned up decently well. Hopefully I have all these jets cleaned out, and let's put it together and see how it works. Already forgot yesterday or something like that. First. Right, which one went where? I do not remember. Well, I gotta go back and look at the video because I don't remember offhand which one's which. Alright, well, I'd like to say that was the first kick, but it definitely wasn't. It was about 2 hours of kicking and pulling the carburetor back off and on probably 3 or 4 times, cleaning it out, and yeah, finally runs now. At this point, I'm tired and hungry, so I think I'm going to call for the night and go get some food and catch back with you in the morning. Alright, it is the next day. After I shut off the camera last night, I did some more cleaning and stuff on it, hosed it down. It's coming out pretty clean. Let me show you the pipes here and what our game plan is for today. So the pipe cleaned up pretty good. It's kind of hard to get in to the back spots here where it's rusted and clean that out, but we'll have to take off the pipe to do that. But the battery box is, not the battery box, the air box is kind of crusty, so we might pull that off and just kind of clean it up again. The rear wheel cleaned up really well. We left the tank soaking overnight, and it's starting to do its job in there. We'll leave it keep sitting though. So last night I ordered up a new battery for this guy, new air filter, some other odds and ends, and they should be here in a week or so. So I'm really in no rush to clean out the tank. We'll just let it sit, do its thing. But in the meantime, let's pop off this air box. Alright, I think I have all the screws out. Alright, so then we'll just clean these up with a drill and wire wheel and throw some paint on there. Yeah, the mice really did some damage to that, and I thought that this was removable, but apparently it's not. The foam filter just goes over the top, so yeah, we'll do our best. Rebuilding, powder coat. Perfection. Sure. Good. So the seat is in really good shape. It's just a little dirty. It's a little bit of mold. So I think we're just gonna try some soapy water here just to get the top layer of stuff off. This is just dish soap. Yeah, we'll just let that sit out in the sun. So the seat's dry. I'm gonna put some of this Grigio's leather care on it. It's kind of like leather. This thing. Space some road. There we go. It's got a nice dull shine to it. Oh, I did lie. There is a tiny little cut right there. Oh well. Throw it away. Start over. So the chain is pliable. It's not like rusted solid or anything. And I do want to try to keep this as original as possible. You always could just throw a new chain on it, but I'm going to try to just soak it in the sonic cleaner and see what happens. So I did find the master link on it here. If I can get this off without launching it across the room, that would be great. Alright, throw this in the sonic cleaner. Alright, so we have the chain in there for probably about 2 hours. Let's take a look and see. That's better. Alright, let's clean it up. Make sure I didn't lose any pieces here. Down some brake clean. Get some of this grease off of it still. Some of the rollers are still kind of rusty, but it's a lot better than when it went in. And just gonna throw it in a tray here. Soak it in. What do we got? 1040 diesel oil. That'll be fine. Let it sit in that. it around, and then we'll end up just letting that soak for a bit, get it all coated, wipe off the excess, and then we'll go put it back in the bike. So I did leave the chain soaking for I don't know, probably 10 minutes or so, but I just want to get some of this extra oil off, otherwise as soon as we start driving it, it's just gonna start whipping around on us, which it still will, but just to get some of this excess off. Really just want these links to get not dry, I guess. And I did find when I was looking at the master, underneath all the grease, it still had the yellow paint on it from when they marked it at the factory, which is pretty cool. Might need a little bit of attention. And we can put our cover on. And our shifter. Line that up, I think something about right there. Alright, so it's about a week later. Parts started rolling in, so I think at this point we can start putting it back to the toolbox, the battery box, take a look at the tank and see what we have there. But let's start with, trying to remember how all this went back together. I'm pretty sure toolbox had to go in first. And then this dropped in. Let me bring you in here so you can see what we're doing. Alright, so these wires here get tucked up top. Toolbox is a screw that goes in down here. This just gets slid into this rubber grommet here. I believe this is our voltage regulator. This gets mounted underneath there. Yeah, we have our new battery here. This thing is tiny, but that's what it calls for. And our vent tube up. I should clean up these terminals before we put this on. So we'll do that, then tighten all this stuff up. Alright, so we've had this tank sitting in evapor rust for about a week or so. Just under. But I'm pretty excited to see what's inside, how clean it came out. I did look periodically, but let's dump it out and see what we're actually working with here. There's so much in there that it's clogging the filter screen on here. Alright, you can see all this sediment that's coming out of here so far. And that's rust and stuff build up in there. So it's did a good job. Alright, we're gonna spray this out and see what it actually looks like inside. So after rinsing it out, and you can see the tank came out really clean. So before we put this back on the bike there, I think I do want to try to clean it up a little bit on the outside. So I'm just gonna use this very appropriate size polisher. And what do we got here? McGuire's swirl remover. Let's see how that works out for this. Okay, let's see how she looks. Well, I'm going to say that's good enough for who this is for. Yeah, looks pretty good. There's a little bit of fading and stuff where gas has been leaked on it, but it's still an old bike, so. Alright, let's throw this on the back of the bike. This does have to line up on those pucks there. I think it's got to go forward more. There we go. Good. And off camera, I did polish up the gas cap. Came out pretty clean. That's just a residual gas tank cleaner in there. The other thing I want to do before I forget is change the case oil on this. So that wasn't very tight. There should be a screen in here too. So we'll clean all that out. Oil looks drained enough. Reassembly is just the reverse of it. So that goes in. Make sure it's seated. Stay. And our spring and our cup. Here's a tech tip for you. Take your drain funnel and cut some notches in it so that when you put your oil pan in, it stands up and doesn't slide out. So now let's fill it up. We'll take off the fill plug here. I don't actually know how much of this it'll take, so thankfully it has a dipstick on it. That was a little less than a quart, so let's check it. Yeah, it looks right to the top, so that's good. So we just finished installing the rebuilt petcock. This also was all gummed up, so we went through the sonic cleaner, cleaned all that out, replaced the gasket in here, added a fuel line, and added a secondary fuel filter. There is a little mesh copper screen inside of here. Actually, it's down here, but having two hopefully won't hurt. So we just got our new air filter. We went OEM on this one. You would not believe how much Honda charges for a piece of foam. It was like 15 bucks. Well, anyways, let's put this on here. Get this reassembled. I guess on the positive side it comes pre-oiled, so that's something. And we got our cover here. Holds that in. Alright, and then how does this slide in there? Okay. Yes. And I suppose we can tighten up these guys too. Alright. Let's put some spray on there. Well, I think this is just a horse apiece. You're going to struggle one side or the other. There it goes. Let's roll our spring up. Alright. And then tighten this guy down. So I did notice when I was cleaning up in this area that it's actually a 73, not a 77. Thankfully, Honda didn't change much between 73 and 77, or at least the parts that I had ordered, because I had ordered all the parts for 77. So let's dump some gas in it. I think we're at that point. Oh, we got a leak. Where is it leaking from? Well, the rebuilt petcock definitely leaks. I did manage to catch some of it, but then dumped it on my leg here. So I guess we'll put in the aftermarket one and hopefully it's better. Alright, so we switched over to the Chinese petcock, put the fuel line back on, not seeing any leaks. Carb float bowl isn't leaking, so that's good. Let's turn this to on. Turn the key to on. We're in neutral. Turn the idle up a little bit. Alright, at this point I think we can start putting all the other plastics and stuff back on. I do want to tighten up this chain before we go anywhere though. Alright, here's the moment I've been most excited about. Let's get the seat back on. And before we put this side back in, put our tools back in. Cool. Awesome. So, for after sitting 39 years, this thing just fires up and idles now. That's awesome. Well, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and that'll do it. No? Should we actually take this thing out for a ride? And that's the best part of having a bike, right? Before we do that, I gotta change out these gas-soaked clothes. And let's go take it for a ride. Much better, right? And if you're gonna ride a 70s bike, you should probably have a big collar, an ELO shirt, some aviators. Let's rip this. After sitting 39 years, this bike is back up and running like it should be. Not skipping a beat, skipping a few beats. Looks like we got a little bit of a gas leak, but I wouldn't worry about that. A few other things that we got to do to the bike. Lube up the chain with actual bike grease, or with actual chain lube. Probably look at that gas leak a little bit. We never actually check the brakes. They seem fine, but you don't really need brakes. All they do is slow you down. But if you guys have made it this far, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, we're going to be jumping on that Yamaha 175 Enduro, which I'm pretty excited about. So make sure you subscribe and you'll know when that one comes out. But until next time, thanks and take care.